Throughout the sands of time, there has been a particular saying used to describe ultimate killing prowess. One shot. The act of felling your foe in a single lethal blow as a show of dominance. Young pansies today, they'll hit 15 different buttons, all the while screeching the term. But what we're talking about is one shot, one kill. Amongst all the warriors of Calradia, there is one whose one-shot potential stands out above the rest. Ruler over the southern sands, the supreme Sultan, Ali Boli Muhammad. He and his army of javelin-tossing badasses stand ready to educate their enemies on the true definition of one shot. Prepare to feel your knees tremble, Bannerlords, as you behold the awesomeness of His Eminence, the King of Crushing, the Warlord of Whoop-Ass, the Sultan of Slaying. Ali Boli Muhammad, the greatest guy ever. And now that you have basked in his glory, we know that you too shall be inspired to build your own one-shot Sultan. And so let's iron you out on how it's done. The number one rule to remember about the one-shot Sultan build is the 5 and 5 rule. When you're just a young Bannerlord starting out, remember to only put 5 in control and 5 in endurance. As you level up your athletics, remember, you're going to get an extra endurance attribute here, and you'll get an extra control attribute here. So that'll take you to 6 and 6. Come over to smithing, it's the same thing. Extra control attribute here, extra endurance attribute here. And that's going to get you to that sweet 7 and 7, which is going to allow you to max out these perk trees that you want to by only investing 5 in each. And you're going to have a ton left over that you can put wherever you want. And with the rest of my attribute points, I just came on down here into Int. You max out Steward and you get a lot more party size and you get a bunch of bonuses to food consumption, wages, and all that. And it keeps going past 250. You come into Medicine and you pick up the most powerful perk in the game, this Minister of Health, that adds a hit point to troops for every skill point above 250. And remember, if we go 10 attribute points and 5 focus skills, we're going to get up to 330. So that would be 80 hit points per troop. I mean, this is the most powerful perk in the game when it's maxed out. Yeah, it's a little cheesy, but sometimes it's fun just to dominate. Plus, if you play on Bannerlord difficulty and take your licks like a man, by the time you get it all built up, you're ready to be kicking ass a little bit. Because let me tell you something, Brother Oklahoma bit off a little more than he could chew a few times. I've spent some time in captivity. Let me just put it that way. And it's nice to be out here crushing now. And of course, engineering with the extra damage, you're just going to win sieges all the time. This combination is just overwhelmingly powerful. Plus, you have all the benefits of being a combat badass because of the strength of the throwing and javelins. And look, you don't need to go higher in javelins, okay? Once you unlock all the perks in javelins and you get this one here where you can throw them through shields, and on top of that, you're smithing and making the best javelins in the game. I mean, look at these things. 141 pierce. Okay, you multiply into it all your perks and the speed that you're riding it, a little momentum, and you're talking about hitting for thousands sometimes. So you don't need to go 10 points in control because this is more than enough throwing. 7 is fine. The one drawback to javelins is that eventually you run out of them. I think I get around 23 with all the perks and everything, but that's not a lot of ammo compared to something like horse archery. 2 things. First off, 23 javelins is 23 kills right off the bat. Actually, for me, it's more like 15, but you know what I mean. You say, all right, but after the javelins, you drop off in combat killing ability, but that's not true because you're going to come in here with these 7 endurance attribute points, put 5 focus in riding. That's going to get you way of the saddle and start jacking up your charge damage. Then all you do is hop on top of a noble horse that's got some high charge damage, and just running through enemies, you're going to cause a ton of charge damage. Talking like 30, 40 damage just by running into a guy at full speed. And with this maxed out smithing, when you finally do transition to your sword, it's not going to be some basic bitch sword. It's going to be a glorious golden sword for a glorious golden sultan. Look at this thing. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Takes my breath away just looking at it. I had to name it the Sultan's son because apparently it's the only son I'm ever going to have, thanks to this hussy. Oh God, I can barely look at her. Should just give her back to her dad. What's crazy is she fills up like a pond in the rain, but all she ever delivers is disappointment. I mean, what else do I gotta do? Look at all these jewels and shit she's got on. She's got a legendary sword, an awesome horse. I mean, her armor's fantastic, right? She's all protected up. H-E-I-R, sweetheart. Someone write it down. That's what I should get her a air banner. One. I just won at this point. I'm not even being greedy. Oh, God. She's delivered me 3 girls right now, and you guys know the rules, right? 3 strikes and you know how the saying goes. So we got number 4 on the way, and we'll see how it plays out. But someone else is about to learn the meaning of one shot. So we've got our badass javelins, our glorious sword. We also have all the charge damage coming off our freaking battle tank, right? And then look, we're buffing the army up. We got a big ass army with a bunch of hit points, and they take a lot less casualties. A lot more of them just get wounded. No one touches us in the engineering game. And then, of course, I came into roguery. If you don't want to do roguery, you could go anywhere else with this. You're going to have plenty of money between smithing, the Azerite caravan bonus. I was running 2 caravans most of the game. I think I'm just running 1 now. You could put these points in leadership, and get higher level recruits or something. I pretty much just recruit from prisoners, and I don't take a ton of casualties because of this medicine. I don't need the extra charm. I mean, look, I have 18 in charm. And come to my kingdom, these are all the clans I've recruited. I've got plenty of tier 5 clans. I got a tier 6 clan here. Charm is always a funny one to me because people always tell me how awesome charm is. But here I am with 18 points in it, and I'm dominating a game. And look here, I've got 7,509 influence points. What do I need? Another +5 a day so I can get I've got more influence than I could spend. I've recruited every clan that I could ever need. And most of them were one-shots. A couple of them made me work for it, but once you've got the money rolling in, it doesn't matter. So to me, people talk up the charm tree. I don't get it. People always ask, have you done a trade playthrough? I have. It was agony, and honestly, I play Bannerlord to fight, not to trade. The core build here, 5 and 5. We're going to grab one-handed, throwing, riding, athletics, and smithing. And then after that, do what you want. For me, I like to come down here and just max out Ent. I think you get just so much bang for your buck doing this, and it's just a really exciting and fun playthrough. You've got all the strength and power of being a badass javelin throwing one-shot sultan, and then your army is just an army of death-dealing machines. And it's just incredibly fun, and so check it out. Just some tips that you may want to consider on your Azerite campaign. The first one I'm going to suggest is make sure to hug a Harami. If you don't know what a Harami is, it's a desert bandit. And you're going to be clearing out a bunch of desert bandit camps. And so you're going to capture a lot of these guys. Just sell the low-level guys. But these Harami add some exceptional cavalry units to your very, very early game. As soon as you can start beating desert bandit parties, you're going to start collecting these guys. And I just like to keep them and recruit them. If you take a look at them here, I mean, they've got 80 in riding, but look, they're on a war mount. And yeah, it's not armored, but when you're just fighting bandits, a war mount's pretty nice. They only have 80 in riding, so, they're not the most spectacular horsemen. But as a starting unit, again, I've got these guys, and I've only got 34 troops in my army. We just started this playthrough, and here I've got 5 Harami, and they tear it up in bandit fights. And even, to be honest, when we start hitting caravans, they do all right. I mean, they do take some casualties because you'll see they're not exceptionally well armored. They're all right, but they're not crazy armored. They've got this desert longsword, so they do pretty well at reaching down or reaching across and fighting sword to sword. This fine leaf steel spear 37 pierce. That's outstanding. And it's got that 179 length. So they do pretty good fighting other cavalry. And look at these javelins. 121 pierce. And something I'd like to point out to you, look at the veteran Ferris here. He's got the same weapon, the Jareed with 121 pierce, but look at the throwing there, only 80. My handsome Harami, 100 in throwing, also has the Jareed. So when it comes to throwing, they actually are better than the veteran Ferris, which is really what you want them to do. Go out there and toss those javelins and then get to work lancing things down with the spear. They've got a very big shield. It's not a very good one, but it gets them by in bandit battles. And you get all of that for the low, low price of 8 dinar a day. So a very solid unit and an amazing early game unit that you get access to down here in the Aserai lands. So just something to put in the front of your mind as you're starting that Aserai campaign. Make sure you hug a Harami. This one's obvious, but please do remember the Aserai cultural bonus where their caravans are 30% cheaper to build and they get 10% less trade penalty. Probably one of the most powerful perks in the game. You throw on top of that no speed penalty in the desert, and you've got a home field advantage that you can use to just farm enemies that come into your territory. Really cool bonuses and very powerful. But when it comes to the caravans, don't be afraid to kick them out. I mean, here I am in the early game making money because my caravans are out there making me 902 gold a day. Now, that number goes up and down, and yes, sometimes they get captured. But overwhelmingly, I find them, especially as you level them up and get their scouting up, they've been doing better and better for me. And between the smithing, the caravans, and the merc contract, I blew up this game. I mean, I had money everywhere. It was no big deal to start another caravan up. And once I got them up and running, my late game spice vendor has been putting coin in my pocket all game long. They do get caught and captured, but I've had times when I'm like, God, is that caravan still out there running? And I check, and sure enough, she's out there just making me money. So I think on your Aserai campaign, it's more than worth the risk, and it's kind of fun little way to gamble your money anyway, right? One thing I always like to point out anytime we're going to be leveling up our throwing, first off, let's just take a moment here to look at my awesome sword. You see this thing? Look at the bling. This is one of those new helmets you can get in Aserai towns. Isn't it awesome? I mean, come on. The sword, the helmet, the shield, and look at the size of those shafts. What a man. What an absolute stud. But anyway, the number one best way to level up your throwing is to throw rocks and or mangonel ammunition down on top of your foes. So anytime you're in a siege defense and you can grab, excuse me, I'm trying to talk here. So anytime you're in a siege defense and you can grab either some of the rocks over here, you'll see them over there to the left. There's a pile of them you can grab. But the best thing to grab is mangonel ammunition. Guys, I am trying to fucking talk here. Anyway, you grab the ammo and you throw it down on top of them. And that's the fastest way to level your throwing. I mean, this guy right here is dead, right? Stealing my stones. I wish you could turn that off. You shouldn't be stealing the Sultan stones. Now, the best way to do it is to grab a fire pot. If you have the engineering skill that allows you to make fire siege weapons, they launch fire pots, and you can just grab those and you can find yourself a little platform or something, and then you throw it down on top of the enemy. That's the number one best way to do it. Let's see if I can just throw that right there. There you go. So that works. But if that's a fire pot, it kills all those guys. It takes out a few of your own guys, but sometimes their service is required. So that's just something to be aware of when it comes to throwing. No better way to level up throwing than throwing shit down on people in sieges. Another question I get in every guide I do is, okay, that's all great, but how do you deal with the horse archers? Well, let's go deal with some horse archers. Every time horse archers attack, they swing out on your left flank and they try to encircle you, right? Every time. That's what they're going to do every time because they all shoot to the left. So there's a few things you can do. Number one, I like to put my archers over here on my left flank. That way their arrows are going to be met with my arrows. Then I'm going to put my cavalry over here on my right flank. And then once they push around here, and if they come and get around behind me, then I'm going to send my cavalry around the flank behind them and smash them this way. So they'll be taking shots from my archers the whole time. On top of that, my cavalry's going to come around and behind because, they're going to try to retreat, and we're just going to take down as many as we can. Another option you have is if you get an opportunity like this, where you just get some awesome terrain, and this is a battlefield that's set up for it, so I saved it so you guys could see. Remember, water dramatically slows down enemy units. And so what we're going to do here is we want to make sure, because if I go too far over here, they'll push them back onto the land. I really want these horse archers to hit the water. So I'm going to do something like this. Okay, and we're going to hit our guys right here. And then we'll just fire this up. Now, one of the things you want to do, remember, javelins have a limited number of ammo. I'm going to re-enable my HUD here so that you can see I have 22 javelins. So that's not a lot, but it's not, it's a nice number. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our infantry up here, and we're going to put our archers over there across the pond, because here come the horse archers, right? But that water's going to slow them down. Now, remember, one thing you want to do is put your infantry on hold fire, because you don't want them spending their javelins throwing it at these horse archers. Now, these horse archers are in a tough spot because they're firing into my shielded infantry, but look, my archers are laying into them. If they want to go around my flank, in this case, they've got to go through water. And so you can see there's 62 of them. Look, they're dropping like flies. But let's admit that battlefield was set up perfectly for me. Let me give you an example here on more of an open battlefield that's a little more favorable to the Khazate horse archers. Although you'll see I still have some barriers out here, but we'll push up there and run out so that I can show you what I'm talking about. So we're going to fire this thing up. First thing we want to do, have my infantry hold their javelins, have my cavalry hold their javelins.
Infantry, move! Infantry, archers!
Get the archers up here.
Cavalry!
I'm going to move my cav right there.
Archers!
Okay, so I'm going to get my archers over here on the left, my infantry right up here. And you can see there's a shit ton coming. God, you got to love the sound of that hitting that steel shield. Isn't that cool? Okay, so there's my guys. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to send my cavalry out and around. And remember, they're holding fire. Here comes my infantry. So my archers are going to take some casualties here. They're kind of in the thick of it. I'm putting my infantry out here. And then what I'm going to do now is charge my horsemen in. And remember, they're holding their javelins, so they're going to go straight in here. And now you can see these horse archers are in a real tough spot, because my archers are shooting them. My cav's got them buttoned up. And you could even, if you wanted to, highlight your cav and start them having throwing javelins. I think we're doing a pretty good job without the javelins. And then I can save all those javelins for when the rest of that army comes, which here it comes. Gonna have my infantry face that way. Hold fire off. Archers face that way. Let's go. Cavalry, fire at will. And now they've got all those beautiful javelins. And you can see they bust out the javelins. And now we're just gonna start dishing out the one-shots, baby. And so that's one pretty basic yet effective way to deal with horse archers. Just put your archers out on the left flank, have them duel out, and then if the horse archers get around you, send in the cav. And let me give you one more battle here just to show off my Azurai boys, because I love them so much. They're just so lethal, these armies, with all this ranged firepower. The javelins on the infantry, javelins on the cav, and these archers are just crazy good. These Azurai archers, so good. And you can see we got these Valandia boys interrupting my Ramadan. So now we're going to ram it down their throat. And we'll go ahead and grab some death sticks here and get ready. You can see them coming. Now I'm going to have my cavalry hold fire, because remember what I told you. They act like horse archers, and they really just kind of skirmish until they use up their javelins. What I find is the best tactic is to actually have them hold fire, charge them in, and then when everybody's up nice, close, and personal, and we're getting nice and intimate, that's when I have them start throwing javelins. And it's crazy powerful that way. They're going to be eating all these arrows, all these javelins. Look, you can see my infantry getting ready to toss them out here. And they're going to come in and charge right in like those brave Valandia bastards that they are. You got to respect it. And I'm going to countercharge right now with my cav. And here they come. And then I'm just going to start throwing my javelins too, right? Let's just get them out there.
And that's what I'm talking about. One freaking shot. And that's what's so great about this build is that, oh, hold on. Now, you see my calves all bunched up? Now I'm going to have them start firing. Now we're going to have those javelins start going out, and you're going to see these Valandia numbers are going to start dwindling. Between the archers, cav, and javelins from the... and look, don't be afraid to throw it into the horse. You can see right there, that works. But I am talking about one-shotting the most elite units in the game, and that's one of the great things about this build. When all the high-tiered, high-armored units are out here, you've got javelins flying, which are perfect for high-armored units, right? They just devastate them. And then, once all the low-tier, low-armored reinforcements show up, you just transition to that sword and charge damage, and you just start mowing them down. Because you don't need javelins for these guys, right? And so at the beginning of the battle, you're crazy deadly with those javelins. And then, as it progresses and you start ramping things up, you transition into a better harvesting build for all this low-level shit that's out here. On top of that, because you can go with the 5 and 5, you have plenty of attribute points to level something like medicine and steward. So your army is just crazy tanky, very resilient to damage. It's very cheap. It doesn't use as much food. And like I said, your guy is a death machine. Very, very fun build and playthrough. And now, my Bannerlords, you have witnessed the power and majesty of the one-shot Sultan and his amazing sword. I hope you've been reminded on what it truly means to one-shot. Oklahoma out.